History is written in bone, but sometimes the bone tells a story that sounds like a nightmare. In 1923, a team of explorers in the heart of Mongolia found something that shouldn't have existed. They expected to find a wolf. Instead, they found a monster. 83 centimeters of solid, bone-crushing power, the largest carnivorous land mammal skull ever discovered. It defied every law of nature they knew. It was a predator built on a scale that shouldn't be possible. They named it Andrewsarchus, a name that would haunt the annals of paleontology for over a century. Was it a wolf, a bear, or something the world had never seen before and would never see again? But there was a problem, one that would frustrate science for decades. They found the skull, but the rest of the body was gone. This skull is the only witness we have to a world of terrestrial giants, a singular piece of evidence of an impossible predator. The discovery was just the beginning. The real mystery was what this monster actually was. For a century, we called it a monster. We tried to fit it into the world we knew, but Andrewsarchus belonged to a world we had forgotten. It was not a wolf, it was not a bear. It was a hoofed carnivore, a predator that walked on the feet of its prey. The mesonychid theory suggested a hunter unlike any other, a killer with the soul of a wolf but the body of a hoofed beast. But modern science reveals an even stranger truth. Its closest relatives aren't found in the forest, but in the deep and in the mud of the riverbank. Related to the hippo and the whale, a side branch of evolution that grew into a giant and then hit a dead end. Even today, a century after its discovery, the debate rages. We have the evidence, but we cannot agree on the truth. Looking beneath the surface, we find a machine built for power. Every ridge, every hollow tells a story of extreme specialization. The bite force was calculated in the thousands of pounds, a pressure so great no bone in the Eocene was safe. Inside that 3-foot fortress lay a brain built for one thing: survival. Not a genius, but a master of instinct. Its world was a map of sense and heat. Before you ever saw it, Andrewsarchus had already decided your fate. The skull is a masterpiece of evolution, but beyond the jaw, there is only a haunting silence, a body that nature refused to preserve. To see him, we must look to his cousins. We borrow the spine of a whale, the shoulders of a hell pig, and the legs of a hoofed beast. Two different visions of the same nightmare, a fleet-footed stalker or an unstoppable, crushing brute. The evidence points towards power, not a sprinter, but a tank, a predator that didn't need to chase you because nowhere was safe. We must be humble. In the end, we don't have the animal. We only have the ghost he left behind and the teeth he used to rule his world. Science is not a destination, but a journey. We rename the beast, but we still haven't truly met him. We are missing the pieces to complete the portrait. Without the rest of the bones, he remains a phantom of the Gobi. He is the ultimate mystery of the Eocene, a legend that grows larger with every year he remains hidden. Every generation creates its own monster, but the truth is harder than any drawing. While the body is a mystery, the teeth are a certainty, and they tell us that Andrewsarchus was built for one thing.
To understand Andrewsarchus, you must look past the mystery
and into the mouth of the beast. It was a toolkit designed for absolute destruction. The molars at the back were biological anvils. They didn't just chew, they pulverized. Nothing, not even a turtle's armor, was safe. But it wasn't just a scavenger. The front of its mouth held the tools of an apex killer, incisors designed to grip, tear, and hold on. It possessed a bite force that rivaled the great marine reptiles of the past. It was a hyena the size of a rhinoceros. The numbers were staggering, more than a ton of pressure per square inch, a force that could end a life in a single heartbeat. Its size suggests an apex predator, but its teeth tell a more complicated story. Was it a killer or the ultimate thief of the Eocene? Like its distant cousins, the hippos and pigs, it was likely an opportunist. When meat was scarce, the earth itself provided.
But don't be fooled by its diet of roots. With a skull that large, it was built to tackle the giants of its time. Its teeth were more than weapons. They were tools, capable of tapping into food sources that other predators simply couldn't touch. This was the king of the shoreline, a scavenger predator that ruled the boundary between land and sea. He was the carrion king, a bully of the Eocene who didn't always need to kill, because no one dared to refuse him. Whether under the scorching sun or the freezing moon, the hunger never ended. For a titan of this size, eating was a full-time job. Every swallow was a feat of biological engineering, a digestive system designed to extract every calorie from the harshest remains. By consuming what others could not, Andrewsarchus secured his place. He was the end of the line for everything that lived in the Eocene, the jaw that defined an era. Now we step back and look at the world he called home. 66 million years ago, the giants fell. In the silence that followed, a new world began to stir. A world where the small would eventually become the monstrous. The Eocene was a hothouse, a time of stifling heat and endless humidity, where life was forced to evolve fast or be consumed. In the heart of what we now call Mongolia, the land was a crossroads of rivers and floodplains, a perfect stage for a king. Here, at the boundary of land and sea, the resources were rich, and where there is food, there is a predator. Amongst the strange flora of a dying age, a shadow moved, a shadow that owned everything it touched. The Eocene was a gallery of experimental killers, but even the fiercest among them knew when to move aside for the true master of the plains. This was a world of miniatures. Modern giants like horses and rhinos were still small, vulnerable, and often nothing more than a snack. Andrewsarchus shared his world with the ancient survivors. Here, at the edge of the water, the rules of the dinosaurs still whispered in the wind. There were no lions, no bears, no wolves. In the early Eocene, there was a power vacuum, and it was filled by a monster of default. He was the apex of an uncontested world, the king of a landscape that had no choice but to bow. This was the world of Andrewsarchus. Every ecosystem has a ceiling. In the Eocene, that ceiling was made of bone and muscle. Andrewsarchus sat at the top, unchallenged and absolute. Competition was rare, not because others weren't hungry, but because the cost of challenging the king was almost always death. Its territory was vast. A single individual could rule an area the size of a modern kingdom, patrolling a world where every cent belonged to him. It was a creature of movement. Following the ancient cycles of water and life, it traversed distances that would exhaust any modern predator. Water was the anchor. In the deltas of Mongolia, the Andrewsarchus found its lifeblood and its most fertile hunting grounds. Even a king must rest, but in the shadows of the Eocene, sleep was a luxury guarded by 3 feet of bone and the sharpest of instincts. In this world, the greatest enemy wasn't another predator, it was the earth itself. To survive the Eocene, you had to be stronger than the storm. The greenhouse world was prone to fever. Volcanic ash and shifting tides tested the limits of every species, but the king refused to fall. He left his mark on a world that would eventually forget him. These tracks were the blueprints of a giant that ruled a world of miniatures. The world was his stage. Now he was ready to show it why he was feared. To be the king of this world was to be alone. Andrewsarchus did not hunt in packs. It did not share its territory. It was a singular force of nature. Territory was marked with scent and scar. Every splintered tree was a warning to others. This land has a master, and his patience is thin. Before the bite comes the warning, a display of hardware so overwhelming that most battles were won without a single drop of blood. Body language was its primary weapon. By making itself look like a mountain of muscle, it forced the world to acknowledge his rule. It moved with the weight of the earth itself. It didn't need speed when it possessed the momentum of a falling mountain. It was not built for a marathon. It was built for the explosion. A ton of meat and bone launched by tendons as thick as ship ropes. In a world of small, fast prey, strength was its own kind of speed. When it moved, the earth had no choice but to tremble. It was a master of the lie. It could wait for hours, masquerading as stone and silt, until the distance between predator and prey was zero. Silence was its greatest weapon. For an animal of its size to move without a sound was the last thing its prey would ever fail to notice. Dominance was not a gift. It was a debt paid in scars. Between 2 kings, there is no room for peace. Its voice was a weapon, a low-frequency vibration that could paralyze prey and warn rivals from miles away before they even saw the shadow. This was the sound of ownership, a biological broadcast that declared every inch of the delta as his own. It didn't roar to boast, it roared to dominate, to shatter the resolve of anything that dared to stand its ground. The greatest predators don't always need to fight. They win through the weight of their presence alone. In the Eocene, silence was the mark of the king, and after the Andrewsarchus had spoken, there was nothing left to say. Life for a titan was a game of calories. To maintain a ton of muscle and a 3-foot skull, every movement had to be calculated.
Every hour was a trade between rest and hunger. Even for the king, the world was unyielding. A failed hunt wasn't just a missed meal, it was a dangerous drain on the finite energy required to rule. Strength has a price. Every victory left its mark, and every scar told the story of a beast that refused to die in a world designed to kill it. Even the most powerful machines eventually wear down. For Andrewsarchus, time was the only rival it couldn't outmuscle. He was the pinnacle of a lost age, the first and last of the hoofed giants, the uncontested alpha of a world that belonged entirely to him.
Every legend begins in silence. Before he was the bone crusher of the plains, he was a blind, trembling ghost in the dark, waiting for the world to claim him. Growth was a violent process. In just a few months, the skull begins to dominate the frame, a biological engine preparing for a life of impact. Every hunt was a classroom. He was learning the physics of his own jaw and the lethal potential of his crushing weight. In a world of monsters, a mother's protection was the only thing standing between growth and extinction. But even this bond had an expiration date. The lessons were over. To become the king, he had to survive the silence. Alone, he stepped into a world that was now his to conquer, or his to die in. Adolescence was a gauntlet of pain. In the Eocene, you weren't born a king. You were forged by the scars your rivals left behind. The first kill is the end of childhood. It is the moment the scavenger realizes he has the tools to become a god. Years of blood and hunger culminate in this, the ultimate form of the Eocene, a machine of meat and bone that nothing can stop. Time is the only predator that never misses. Even for the king, the first gray hairs are a shadow of the end. Every scar is a battle won, but as the wounds accumulate, the weight of the crown becomes a burden too heavy for even a giant to bear. Nature has no room for a retired king. In the Eocene, you are either the master of the kill or a ghost waiting for the end. The territory he once ruled has shrunk to the distance of his next footstep. The predator has become the wanderer. There is no roar, no battle, just the quiet return of a giant to the earth that made him. The jaw is still. The Eocene falls silent. The body was a meal for the earth, but the skull was a message, a fragment of power buried in the vault of time. One life ended, but millions of years later, his story was just beginning. This skull remains the only witness to a world that has vanished.
The greenhouse was shattering. A world that had been warm for 50 million years was suddenly catching a chill, and the king was never built for the cold. As the oceans receded, the lifeblood of the delta vanished. The boundaries between land and sea were shifting, and Andrewsarchus was being pushed into a wasteland. Its greatest strength became its fatal flaw. A 3-foot skull and a ton of muscle required a mountain of calories, calories that a cooling world could no longer provide. Evolution is a race. Andrewsarchus had won the Eocene, but the rules of the game had changed. the giant was a masterpiece of a world that no longer existed. The sun set on the Eocene, and with it the most terrifying jaw the land had ever known. The king was dead. Long live the ghost.
40 million years later, the king rests in a house of glass. A single skull, the only one of its kind ever found, guarding the secrets of a lost empire. We have used the tools of the future to rebuild the past. Every laser and every pixel brings us closer to a face that hasn't been seen in eons. He has become a viral icon, a monster of our own making. But the truth of his lineage is stranger than any fiction we could invent. His blood does not run in the wolf or the bear. To find his kin, we must look to the rivers and the deep. He is the grandfather of giants. He remains an enigma, a predator from a world that broke the rules. Andrewsarchus, the legend that science found but can never truly tame.
Paleontology is a puzzle where most of the pieces are lost to time. For Andrewsarchus, we have the head of the king, but a kingdom of questions where his body should be. For decades, we saw him as a wolf made monstrous, but the physics of a canine body could never carry the weight of that 3-foot engine of destruction. The new truth is even stranger. He is a whale on legs, a cousin to the hippo who chose the path of the carnivore and grew into a nightmare. Why did the desert keep the skull but swallow the man? To this day, not a single rib, toe, or vertebrae has been found. He remains a king without a throne. He is a ghost built from the parts of his kin, a masterpiece of deduction. We may never find his bones, but we will never forget his shadow.
He was a magnificent experiment that led nowhere, a lineage of giants that burned bright for a moment in deep time before leaving the world to the small and the patient. We look at him and see a monster, but he is a mirror, a reminder that the path of evolution is filled with kings who fell so that we could rise. He is the ultimate Rorschach test of paleontology. In the absence of his body, we have built a legend that refuses to stay buried. The apex predators of today are merely shadows of what once was. To look back at him is to realize how much the world has shrunk. He was the first of the mammalian titans, the jaw that crushed an era. Andrewsarchus, the ghost that will never be forgotten.
Every king eventually meets a challenger. From the shadows of the forest comes the Sarcastodon, a mountain of muscle built for a single purpose: to kill giants. It is a clash of philosophies, range and leverage against raw, blunt force power. In this arena, there are no prizes for second place. The Andrewsarchus does not fight like a dog. He fights like a machine of momentum, using a head that weighs as much as a man to shatter his opponent's resolve. Once those jaws lock, the debate is over. No amount of muscle can withstand the pressure of 40 million years of predatory perfection. There can only be one alpha. In the brutal world of the Eocene, Andrewsarchus proved that he was not just a scavenger. He was the king of all he surveyed. Two tanks of the Eocene. One is a killer with a whale's heart, the other a hell pig with a scavenger's soul. They are the two most powerful jaws to ever walk the land. It isn't a hunt,
It's a car crash, a combined mass of nearly 3 tons meeting at 30 miles per hour. This is a battle where physics is the only judge. This is where the math of the Eocene is solved. 4,500 pounds of pressure against the thickest hide on the plains. One jaw to rule them all. The hell pig does not die easy. It is a creature fueled by rage. But in the end, rage is no match for the most efficient crushing tool evolution ever designed. Victory is expensive. In the Eocene, to win the throne is to carry the scars for a lifetime. He remains the king, but even kings must eventually bow to the weight of their own legend.
To understand his power, we must look at the giants of our own time. A Kodiak bear is a master of the modern wilderness, but against the king of the Eocene, he is merely a shadow. He was the closest thing the age of mammals ever produced to a Tyrannosaurus rex, a terrestrial crusher whose bite force broke the records of a new era. The saber-tooth was a specialist of the blade, but Andrewsarchus was a master of the blunt force trauma. He didn't need a perfect strike, he only needed to land one. In the water, his kin became the rulers of the deep. On land, he remained a solitary monument to a time when whales walked the earth and claimed the shoreline as their own. Where does he rank? He is a Tier 1 titan, a creature that redefined the limits of what a mammal could be. He is the legend of the Gobi and the king of the Eocene.
June 1923, the Gobi Desert. A team of explorers drove into a void on the map, looking for the origin of life and finding a nightmare. It was an impossible find, a head so large it defied every known law of mammalian anatomy. In that moment, the world of the Eocene was reborn. It took weeks of grueling labor to rescue the king from his grave. They were carrying a piece of history that would rewrite the story of evolution. The journey out was as dangerous as the discovery. For thousands of miles, the Titan was nearly lost again, this time to the mud and the storms of a changing century. When the dust finally cleared, a new king was crowned, not by nature, but by science. He had survived the earth to haunt our modern world.
To understand his size, look to the familiar. He was a predator the length of a car, with a shoulder height that could look the bus driver in the eye. He was a carnivore built on the scale of giants. In the history of land mammals, only the Andrewsarchus ever dared to reach the weight of an elephant. He is too big for our world, a creature so massive that our modern spaces feel like cages. This is the reality of the Gobi Titan. Against us, he is a god of the old world, a predator so vast that we are nothing more than a momentary distraction. The numbers don't lie. In the pantheon of land-based killers, he has no equal. He is the heavyweight champion of deep time.
The Gobi is a vault of stone. Somewhere in these sands, the rest of the king is buried, waiting for a day that may never come. He is no longer just a fossil. He has become a ghost in our collective memory, a reminder that the most terrifying nightmares are the ones that were once real. The skull is a seed.
From this one piece of evidence, we have rebuilt a world. He remains the most successful riddle in the history of life. He will always be there in the dark corners of our history, the first of the giants, the last of his kind, the uncontested king. Andrewsarchus.